Hi everyone and welcome back to another video. This is Mindy Eggen. In today's video, I'm going to show you how to create a scene using the Master Layouts 6 from Gina K Designs. I'm also going to be using the Woodland Friends stamp set. Now, currently at the time of this video, this is part of the Eclectic Fun Card Kit, but it will be sold separately later on in the future. So right now I just picked out a few images out of that stamp set that I really liked, which that deer I think is my absolute favorite. And I'm lining them up onto some white cardstock that is 80 pound. I'm going to pick them up with the door of my Misty. And since I hadn't used these before, I'm just pushing my hand over them to kind of, I don't want to say dirty them up, but I want to condition the stamps so that way they'll take the ink a lot better. Then I'm going to ink them up with the Obsidian ink from Gina K Designs. It is Copic friendly, which is what I plan on coloring my images with today. So since it is a fairly new stamp set for me that I hadn't really used much, I am going to make sure that it has really crisp lines, so I'm going to stamp it twice. And then I'm going to take my heat tool and I'm just going to briefly go over the images because sometimes the amalgam ink, and especially depending on where you live, can take a little while to dry and I don't want to smear any of my ink once I start coloring. So I'm just quickly going over that with my heat tool. Then I'm going to color in all of the images with my Copic markers. And I apologize, I don't have the colors written down. I was just kind of rolling with it. I was just grabbing some combinations that I thought would work really well together. The little squirrel here I have is kind of a reddish brown, and I decided to go with kind of a reddish brown because I knew the deer would be a true brown, so I wanted to have kind of some distinction in color between the two. And with the squirrel, I just made sure to have kind of a light and a dark side, so you can see the squirrel is facing to the right, so I kept the darkest color on the left-hand side of it. And same for the branch, I had decided exactly how it was going to go on my card, and I knew I'd be placing it kind of on the left side of the card, and that is how I stamped it, and then I kept the darkest shade of the branch towards the bottom. So moving on to coloring in this cute little deer, or I guess it's a fawn. It's got some little spots on there. Now I did color over those spots and I had planned on going back over those spots with just a white gel pen, but I completely forgot. But that is something you can do if it's too hard to color around the spots, is just take a white gel pen and color those in. Now for the hedgehog, I'm just adding random flicks of color to it in 3 different shades of a dark brown, and I think that really kind of gives some textured look to, I guess, is it a hedgehog or is it a porcupine? Either way, I guess, however you want to look at it. And then my leaves, I just straight colored. I didn't even add any shading to those. So then I'm going to take the coordinating die, line them up over all of the images, hold them in place with a low tack tape, and run them through my die cut machine. Now for working on my background, I have a piece of layering white cardstock here from Gina K Designs. I love using her layering white for ink blending because it is so super smooth and takes ink very well. So on a piece of 4 1/4 by 5 1/2 inch layering white cardstock, I'm just lightly ink blending on some sea glass, and it doesn't even have to be any type of perfect blend. It's kind of going to have a splotchy look to it because it's going to be my sky. Then I have some fresh asparagus that I die cut a hill from using that Master Layout 6, and I'm adding fresh asparagus ink towards the bottom of that. I'm also going to have a mountain in my background, so I die cut that from Whisper cardstock, and I'm ink blending on some Whisper ink. And the more I go over it, the darker it is going to be. Now I took all my pieces and I trimmed them down using my Master Layouts 2, which is one of my favorite die sets. I like the size of that inside panel, and I'm just getting an idea about where everything is going to go. I need to stamp a sentiment on here before I really glue too much down. The mountain I did go ahead and attach with my tape runner, and then I'm also going to go ahead and attach my little hillside. So now that I have all of that down, and off screen I kind of played around with the critters, where they were going to go, I decided where I wanted the sentiment to go, and it's going to say, "Hello, dear friend." So it's kind of playing off of that deer that's going to be in my scene. And I'm just stamping that in my Obsidian Amalgam ink. Now I can go ahead and start working with my scene a little bit. There were some things I wanted to add foam squares to add dimension to my critters, but I want to make sure I save that till the end. So the branch I went ahead and did first, I attached that right to the side there, so it's kind of like a tree branch hanging over. And now I'm lining up about where my clouds are going to be. I don't like to have my clouds exactly lined up on each side. So I do play around with placement on that a little bit. And I'm going to attach them using my tape runner. And I'm doing this purposely before I attach it to a card base because I knew things were going to hang off. So I want to make sure I can trim that off before attaching it to a card base. And then I can go ahead, add my little leaves to my branch with the tape runner as well, or you could use a liquid glue. And then now I can just kind of remove my critters, flip this over, and trim off any of the excess. So off screen, I went ahead and I trimmed out 3 more pieces of white cardstock, about 110 pound, that measures the same size as my front panel. And that's what I'm using to layer up my panel to create dimension. You could also use foam tape here as well. And then I'm taking my tape runner, adding that to the back, and attaching it to a card front that is a white card base, 4¼ by 5½. So I have a really nice white border going around my scene. And then to finish it off, I lined all the back of my critters up with some foam squares, and I'm adding them to the front of my card. So I kept a pretty simple scene, but these dies are great for scene building in so many different seasons throughout the year. So especially with Christmas coming up, this could be a Christmas scene, which is just a matter of changing up the colors of cardstock that you're using. So I hope this video has inspired you to dig out your Master Layouts 6 die from Gina K Designs, or if you haven't purchased it yet, I do have affiliate links listed down below in the video description. Thank you so much for joining me today, and I'll see you again soon.